Hey Stampers, Kim from StampingImperfection.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to share a video with you. This is for 7 Kids Craft Store, and I'm playing with their Treehouse Fairy set. This is one of the 5 stamp sets released in the September release, and I love this little swinging girl. I was planning on using more stamps, and I was planning on making 2 different cards. However, I started to just have a lot of fun, and I couldn't figure out how to, I wanted to use this little branch and hang the little girl from it, but I just couldn't get it to work. So I decided I'm going to draw my own tree and create my own background. So that's what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you just using this one stamp and the sentiment. All you need is faith, trust, and pixie dust. I'm going to show you how I just use my Copics to create my own background. And I can highly recommend that if you want to learn how to do great backgrounds with Copic markers, then you should check out Mindy Baxter's classes at My Creative Scoop. She has a new class every month. You can check out her older classes. She does a really great job teaching you how to do backgrounds. All the things I did on this card I learned in her classes, so I'm going to highly recommend her classes. I love them, and I've been taking them for a couple years now. It's a lot of fun, and now I'm doing my own things, and I love it. I still keep taking her classes because they're great. So I want to show you how I made this, and I'll show you the color combinations, and I'll create a PDF with the Copic color combinations that I used that I will put on my blog at StampingImperfection.com. You can go there and print that off. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for my newsletter, because I send out a DIY Paper Crafters project tutorial weekly or bi-weekly, when as many times as I can, just to share a project with my newsletter subscribers. So do sign up for that, and please make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and click the bell so you get notifications every time I upload a new video. Now, since I'm going to show you a bunch of Copic coloring, I'm going to speed this video up quite a bit, and so just FYI, I thought you should know that. So I'm going to get started. So to get started, I have a piece of white cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I pulled out my little mini Misty. This is perfect, this little mini Misty, for a project like this. And I really did try all different ways to turn that. I just couldn't get it to look the way I wanted it to. So I decided it would be much easier just to draw my own tree and do my own background. I really like doing that. So I conditioned the stamp with that high polymer. That's a Pentel eraser, couple of bucks in CVS, and I stamped it with some Altenew Obsidian pigment ink. This is detail ink, and the first one I double stamped, so I took it out and then I did it again with a second sheet of the same paper. So this one turned out pretty well, and still I decided, trying to decide where I would stamp that. So I'm going to go ahead and just color it. I love this little fairy. The 7 Kids Fairy stamps are just too cute. They're just ridiculously cute. So I just went ahead and pulled out a bunch of markers. So I have the markers I'm going to use for my tree, and right now I'm using E43. And I'm going to use E44 and E47, and basically I'm just making an outline of a tree, and it's going to look terrible here for a while. So using the lightest of the colors that I'm using, the E43, I just drew a branch across where the swing is, and then I made some branches off it and some little tiny branches off that, and then I tried to give it a little bit of texture, and then I took my E44 and then drew in some bigger texture. And this looks terrible for a while until I get going. And I try to put that along every place where there's a branch and one branch curves away from the other. I try to put a little bit of that darker color. So now I'm going to go back to that E43, and I'm just kind of filling in. I'm just filling in, and I'm going right over top of that E44 because it helps pull the color out. So now I'm going to take a dark color. This is E47, and I'm going to go along the right hand edge of all the branches that I made, and I'm going to do those little V points where it curves or where a branch comes out. And then I'm going to make some, I need this to look sort of textured. So I'm kind of creating some texture that a tree might have. And, again, it looks terrible, but I'm going to be putting leaves all over, and I'm going to be dragging this color out. So now I'm going to take that E44 and I'm going to go right over the top of the E47, and I am making it like a little bit longer, and I'm just going right over the top of it, and it's blending it out and softening it a little bit, especially on the edges. So I go over every one of those lines, and then I take that E43 again, and I just go right over the top of everything. That pulls out the colors. It sort of helps the colors all blend together, and it sort of like mutes them a little bit and softens them, and it starts to make it look a little bit more natural. And I actually had a W9 marker out. I was going to go back and deepen some of those dark spots, but I decided this is just a quick and simple little card. I'm not going to do that, but you could do that. And then you would go back over it with the E44 and the E43 again. But I feel like I have a lot of texture there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color that little fairy. Now, while I'm coloring this fairy, I'm realizing my ink is not dry. And I wish I'd hit it with a heat tool. At any point I could have stopped and hit it with heat tool. I wasn't sure what would happen with the alcohol markers if I did that. Like, will they not blend? So I decided to persevere. It wasn't that bad, but it will affect some parts of it. So here I'm using YG07, and I put the YG07 in each one of the creases, the lines where it looks like someone has given it some dimension. Then I went over it with YG06 and filled in with YG11. Now I'm taking a darker color, YG09, and I'm again doing the spots that will be darker, like the tips of the hat scallops, and I'm doing the right side of each one of those petal type things or leaf type things, and the right side of her shirt, the right side of each one of the sort of petals in her dress. And then I went back over that with the YG07, then the YG06, and just filled in with the YG11. I didn't spend too much time worrying about that. Now the purples I used here for her wings and for her belt. On her belt I used BV08 and BV02. And then for the wings I used V000, and then I put in a little BV00. I just flicked a little in from her body out. So the tips were the lighter V000 color, and there was a little bit more purpley BV00 toward her body, and I kind of liked it. It looked kind of fairy-like. So now I'm just coloring in her face, and I used, I started with E13, just around her hairline and the edges of her cheeks, and then I went over that with E11. I went over the E13 and then out a little bit farther, and I did again the top and the right side of each leg, and then I did the bottom of each arm, and I went over all of that with E00. Then I started over again with E04, and then I skipped the E13 and did E11 the second time. I just wanted her to have a darker face because I wanted to do darker hair. So then I used the E11 and blended out that E04, and then I took the E00 and filled in everything. And for the wood, I just used E44 and E43. I used E44 on the edges and E43 in the center. And to do her hair, I just wanted to keep the hair simple. And it's hard when it's small, I think, to do a really good job making the hair look textured. So I just took my W7 and just made some dots where the hair was. And then I went over that with W5. I just made dots. And then I did W1 and just made dots. Then I took out a darker color, W9, and I just made some dots. And started to fill in all the white space. Then I did the W7, then the W5, and then the W1 again. And I really like the way her hair came out. It looks curly up close. It looks like she's got curls in her hair, and I think it turned out super cute. And I used a little bit of that W9 inside her mouth, and then I used the E4 for her tongue. So I played around. It's got the stamp set has a gorgeous leaf set, but it was a little too big for the tree that I'd drawn. So I decided to create my own grass, and there is a grass stamp in there. And my favorite grass colors are E67, E63, and E61. I took the E63 first, and all I'm doing is just flicking blades of grass. And I go to the left, to the right, to the center, and I make some taller, some shorter. And I do E63, then I did E67, then I did E61, and then I did some more E67 and E63, and just filled in the whole white space along the bottom with the grass. So that gave me the grass. Now I kind of wish I'd done the sky first, and I don't want the sky. The sky is going to be very subtle. I'm going to use one color, very light color for the sky. I kind of wish I'd done that before the grass. And if I were taking a class with Mindy, she would have much more. She would have hills in the background and little trees in the background and all kinds of things. But I'm just trying to keep this simple, and I'm just trying to create backgrounds on my own, so I really make them my own. So I'm pulling out some leaf colors here. So I want to make some leaves. It's fall. I want there to be leaves. And I definitely need to do something with that sky because I don't want to just leave it white. So I'm pulling out a whole bunch of my favorite colors that I've been using in a few of the fall images that I've been coloring lately. And before I do those leaves, I am going to go ahead and do my so for the sky, I'm just filling in this entire background with B0000, B4 zeros. So I'm just, and I'm not trying to even get it perfect. And I'm trying still to stay away from that black ink. So I recommend, if you're using an ink that you don't usually use for Copics, even if they say it's permanent, just hit it with your heat tool before you start coloring in your image, because having black streaks here and there isn't very much fun. You can see me reaching to the left. I keep wiping off the tip of my my markers as I'm doing this. And so I kind of put this very light blue color. Now I'm just sort of touching the side of my brush nib all around. And this is Y35. It's a really pretty sort of orangey yellow. I really like it. And on top of that, I'm adding YR12. And the YR12 makes some really pretty leaves. And then I'm using my favorite red, which is R24, and I make less of those. And now I'm taking this gold color, Y28, and adding a few of those. And I've got Y11, and I'm going over the entire top of that. And I'm taking those colors and I'm making some of those leaves that sort of hopefully look like leaves falling to the ground. Probably I should have put some on the ground too, but I liked my blades of grass. I didn't want to mess with them. I took my E43 and just very lightly put in some branches in random places, not even touching the branches that are there, because you'll see the branches that the leaves are actually attached to. And that is a very subtle thing. It's hard to see except in person. The last thing I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment. And again, I use that same obsidian ink, so I will be very careful not to touch this. So I'm going to cut a piece of white cardstock, which I thought I'd already done. I'm going to cut this at 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 by 11, and then I scored it at 5 1/2. And this is like 110-pound cardstock, which I don't love for my card bases. It just happened to be what I pulled out. So I had to score that really well. And I'm using some of this double-sided tape. I love this stuff. The scrapbook.com is very good, and the Elizabeth Craft one is very good also. This is 1/2 inch tape. I always open the card up to put the base on, and that's that. So that completes the card. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you stop by my blog at StampingImperfection.com. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and make sure you sign up for that newsletter. Now also, I'm going to have all the links to the 7 Kids Craft Store, because this is just one of the stamp sets that has been released. And they started releasing their own set of stamps, their own brand of stamps, in July. So there are Faerie sets that coordinate with this from July, from August, and now September. So you've got lots of cute Faerie things that you can combine together. So that's super fun. So check out those links below and pick up these Treehouse Faeries from 7 Kids Crafts. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, folks.